All right. So thank you for all of you that were able to come out to our Bike and Ped Committee meeting. I am recording this so that we can advertise it all over the social media websites and on the city website. And for anybody that is watching this video, you can feel free to share it across whatever platforms you might have as well. So the Chelsea's Bike and Pedestrian Committee, or what we like to call it, the Bike and Ped Committee, was formulated, I would say probably about, I think, 2 years ago, from right around this time. And it's an effort to try and build a community-driven committee around all things bike and ped, or bicycle and pedestrian. And so we have some core initiatives that we'd like to chat about, but we also have some awesome accomplishments that we want to start by sort of framing up what we've done as a committee to date. So historically, what we've done, and this is our 2019 impact statement. We don't quite have a 2020 impact statement because of obvious reasons related to the pandemic. So a lot of these things we're hoping to pick up again and keep pushing forward on. So to briefly walk through it, we've raffled off 3 bikes, children's bicycles at community events in partnership with Healthy Chelsea from Healthy Chelsea MGH. We'd love to start doing that once again. We partnered with Mass Bike to offer 2 sessions for bike repair to the Chelsea community. We also raffled off 2 helmets, which is a good starting point. But as we're looking at some of our new rideshare and bike share systems, we are hoping to increase the amount of helmets that we push out to the community to help increase safety amongst both adult riders and youth riders. Additionally, we provided, that was 2 adult helmets that we provided, actually. We provided 84 helmets to kids, which were donated by Project Kids Safe of Breakstone, White and Cluck. And we repaired and donated 12 bikes, both adult and child bicycles. And we handed out 100+ light up bracelets from Margoli Pharmacy. So I think this is a great infographic to showcase what we're able to do as a committee. And so obviously a lot of our efforts are trying to get bikes into the hands of people that want them or maybe otherwise can't afford them. And also to increase safety with teaching people how to repair their bikes, repairing their bikes for them, and giving out things like helmets and light up bracelets to just increase the safety of ridership across the city of Chelsea. And so we have a couple of pictures from our community events. This one was held in Chelsea Square in partnership with Mass Bike. That's where we handed out some of those light up bracelets to people that showed up, and where we did some of the other efforts around, doing bike repairs and whatnot. So we are hoping to partner again with Mass Bike and any other entities like Walk Boston again, or anybody that is related to or interested in supporting bike and pedestrian, either infrastructure or, bikes, helmets, things like that. Something that I think has been really successful and that we'd love to pick up again, I think imminently, are the Ride With Me Chelsea days. And so it's an opportunity to get Chelsea residents out and riding on Saturdays and sort of getting to know each other and getting people passionate about some of the new bike infrastructure that we've put out around the city. It's also an opportunity to pull in new people to join the committee, which that is what this meeting really is all about. We're looking forward to holding monthly meetings once again and really increasing our attendance at those meetings. And we would love to have Chelsea residents really running the show because as much as some of us on here are Chelsea residents, but by and large, a lot of us are either planners or we are people working in a profession that cares about these types of things. But ultimately, a committee is, mostly driven by the community so that we can get some good advocacy for improvements to the biking and pedestrian infrastructure and getting people really excited about having a community that they can be a part of to help share their experiences with biking and walking and using the city. And we've been working hard to sort of understand as a committee what our objectives are. And so we did collaborate and we centered in on safety, mobility, health, and equity. And so obviously, we care about the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists, but we certainly don't want to ignore the other users of the roadway. So we do talk a lot about sort of the impacts of having a lot of vehicles on the road in Chelsea. It can be a very congested city. There's a lot of different types of roadways. And so, if you're watching this and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really, walk or bike that much, but I am interested in sort of infrastructure improvements throughout the city of Chelsea, or I have opinions about them and you're a vehicular driver, we absolutely ask you to come to the committee as well, because your perspective is valuable to us in terms of how we advocate for our roadways and how we can sort of maybe mend some of those fences that have been sort of a historic barrier between, car drivers and bicyclists. The second's mobility. So what we mean by that is that roadways are easy to use, spaces are easy to use, they're understood by all of their users across all walks of life. So handicap, other types of things that are barriers to understanding regular signage, maybe that's even language needs. We want to really include that as a part of some of the stuff that we discuss as a committee and what we present to the city of Chelsea and to others that are actually implementing some of those improvements throughout the city. So a good example of that is that we had just recently implemented bilingual talk buttons at the intersection of William Street and Broadway. And so that's a great way that we can sort of adapt some of our efforts as a city and then also as a committee to make sure that we're including and being inclusive of all types of needs and users of the roadway. The third is health. I think this is a really important one, and it's kind of the nexus of all of our lines of work. We have Healthy Chelsea representation, we have La Collaborativa representation. So it's health across the spectrum, right? Physical activity is very important for youth development and then for mental health and well-being of both youth and adults. It's really important to have more vulnerable groups being able to engage in those types of activities because there's lots of ways that this helps improve them in their daily lives. And we really want to be promoting and supporting that with our initiatives. And the other is environmental. One thing that we've talked about before is that by having more bikes on the road or by having more opportunities for someone to walk or bike or take some type of transportation that's not just a car to their destination, whether that's for work or whether that's for recreation, we're really helping to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from vehicles and keep the air quality around Chelsea and some of the kind of heat that we experience mitigated as a part of our efforts as well. And the last and probably one of the most important ones that I feel like encases all of this is equity. It's equity across the board. Having access to bikes, having those raffling events is great. We're getting bikes into the hands of people that might not otherwise be able to afford them. But we're also really promoting our bike share system as well, which is the Blue Bike system, which we'll talk about later on. But also access to roads and open space. There are a lot of dense residential areas in Chelsea that the roadways surrounding them and maybe some of the parks and open space around them are either dilapidated or there's just not great infrastructure for them to be able to use. And so that's also part of what our initiatives are, is thinking about ways that we can increase the proximity of open space and usable roadways for recreation and or other uses to residents. And then education and advocacy, again, a lot of us are like, our profession kind of encapsulates some of these things, but we want to be able to learn and understand from the community how we can best, educate amongst ourselves about what it means to be a safe pedestrian, what it means to be a safe bicycle rider. And by doing that, we're hoping to kind of kick up advocacy, at the community level. If there is, a really awful intersection somewhere, if there's air pollution due to congestion happening somewhere, if it's, someone wants a bike lane somewhere, being able to unify yourselves as a committee and bring that to the city of Chelsea really helps to push that forward. And we can make that improvement, we can showcase that to council, and we can more easily implement some of the sort of dreams that the residents have. And that's really what we would love to do, as an entity, is to sort of promote the ideas of residents. And then last is cultural sensitivity. We want to just acknowledge that there are lots of different individuals that live in Chelsea that come from all separate types of walks of life, and that some of the things that traditionally maybe a bike and ped committee focus on are not as culturally sensitive as we might want to be. And so trying to support things like bilingual engagement with residents, having this be a space that Spanish speaking only people can come to, and providing that type of support, and kind of trying to increase equity and inclusion in that way is really important. That's a big reason why we sort of partnered in this effort with La Colaborativa, and why we sort of try to pull in other nonprofit organizations as well to kind of reach some of those residents throughout Chelsea. And so Blue Bikes. Blue Bikes is something that we've been working really hard on as a group. We recently just brought our system live in March. And so now we have 6 stations throughout Chelsea. And so if you're not familiar with Blue Bikes, it's a bike share system where you either have an app, or you can go up to the kiosk at the station, and you can rent a bike for certain amounts of time and for a certain amount of money. And so just to showcase the locations of the Blue Bikes right now. So we have one at Chelsea Square. It's situated right across from the Apollinaire Theatre. We have one right in Bellingham Square, just next to City Hall. We have one that is right on the roadway of Broadway, where the Chelsea Greenway sort of crosses over. We also have one in Carey Square. It's just around the corner from Carey Square on the sidewalk up there. We have one right in front of the Broadway Glen apartments on Upper Broadway. And that gives a nice connection along Broadway up into the city of Revere, which also has a Blue Bike system. We also have one right next to the Market Basket Shopping Center, or the Mystic Mall Shopping Center. It's right in Everett Avenue on the median. And so it's also close to Chelsea High School. And so that's also trying to link us into Everett as well, but also grab some of those students that walk around that area. And there's also some new residential developments over there. So obviously this is not, exhaustive in terms of where we put everything in the city. So we are hoping to expand the system into the future, but that's definitely reliant on how many people we can actually get to ride the bikes themselves. And so just chatting through another program that's a part of the Blue Bike system is the Low Income Eligibility Program. So when we're talking about increasing mental health well-being and increasing equity within these types of rideshare systems, or within bike and pedestrian infrastructure, this is a great opportunity for us to work on and kind of get into some of the nonprofits and get people signed up onto the Low Income Eligibility Program. It's $5 per month. That means that you get an unlimited 60-minute trip. So you basically get, free, well, not $5 per month, and you can ride a bike for 60 minutes. You got to put it back. You can pick up another one, or it's 60 minutes with a $2 fee every 30 minutes thereafter. So it's a really great, effective, low-cost way for you to have a bike and to not have to maintain your own bike. And it's very nicely linked in with, like I said, Revere, Everett, but also East Boston. And there are stations all across the greater Boston area, in Somerville, Cambridge, downtown Boston, Dorchester, Brookline. So it's a really well-connected system. And enrollment is really easy. Basically, if you have an EBT card or any of these listed social service programs, you are eligible to sign up for the program. And so our effort as a committee is to work with some of our nonprofits to set up centers, or set up ways that, whether they're Spanish speaking only, or bilingual, or whoever wants to come and sign up for this program, we can get you signed up, and you'll be able to start riding your bike basically immediately. And another portion of the committee, and sort of where I come into play as a planner for the city of Chelsea, is I really like having a forum and a space to show some of our proposed infrastructure improvements in the city of Chelsea, and to gain additional community support around them. So as we hold our monthly meetings moving forward, we'll start looking at exactly where in the city of Chelsea there are bike lanes and other types of biking assets that make it a little bit simpler for you to get your way around Chelsea on a bike. Talking about the pedestrian and open spaces, we do a lot of development of our open spaces. And we do hold public meetings for those, but having a regular committee there to help field some of those improvements and kind of walk designs around with, I think will be really, really meaningful for us. Additionally, roadways and intersections, we want to talk about impacts to travel, impacts to pedestrian and biking routes throughout the city of Chelsea, and make sure that we're making, those improvements really equitable and paying special attention to how we manage the flow of everybody around some of those projects. And then public transit and sort of the intersectionality of justice within public transit. This is an initiative that Green Roots carries forward pretty well, but we are hoping to have residents get excited about, maybe supporting some of the efforts from Green Roots, or maybe independently pushing forward some ideas that we can bring to things like the MBTA or other types of public transit throughout the city of Chelsea and into the region. So those are, certainly areas where we want to showcase at the committee, at the monthly committee meetings as well. And so this part's really important, how to get involved. Moving forward, we're going to hold monthly bike and ped meetings. So we are hoping that people can commit, once a month to coming out either, virtually or maybe into the future in person, and start really getting involved and digging into some of these projects that we're working on. Like I said before, the group rides and the events, those are really like our bread and butter. Like that's what we get excited about, because that's really taking things like that we talk about within the space and actually doing them like in real life. So those bike repairs, offering up helmets, other safety materials to residents, and then getting together as a group and going on group rides and enjoying some of the infrastructure that we have here in Chelsea, and seeing some of the beautiful sites that we have is something that we're passionate about. If you are less feeling like you don't want to do a monthly meeting with us, you can subscribe to an email blast and keep your eyes on our social media. We have a great Facebook page going on right now. We're hoping to improve some of our other social media outlets. But if you are interested in that, we do hope that at each of our meetings, we'll be able to put out a monthly update and have people participating in stuff through email rather than just attending a meeting in person. And the last one is advocacy. I think, again, like equity, it's like a hallmark of what we do. What we're trying to do is promote things that are maybe not as conventional as, a city hall might undertake. We're really concerned about utility improvements, roadway improvements, but we really want to make sure that we're focusing in on, increasing biking and pedestrian use throughout the city of Chelsea, because again, it's good for physical well-being, it's good for cultural and social cohesion. It's a way for us to sort of interact with one another with sort of a common goal and a common passion. And we have a discussion, and I see Sarah joined, and we have a few other people. So I think now what we'll do is I will conclude the recording of the meeting so that we can share that on social media and the city website and wherever else. And then we can sort of chat as a committee.